everyone! Before we begin, I would like you to take a piece of card and some scissors from the table in front of you. I'd like you to use these materials and these tools to design an eco-friendly paperclip. You have 1 minute to make your clip. Ready? Go! So, what do your paperclips look like? What lessons have you learned from this exercise? Is your design strong? How many pieces of paper does your clip hold? Would you use different materials next time or different tools? Think of everything you learned in only 1 minute. It's easy to conflate the term technology with the digital tools that are so fully ingrained in our day-to-day lives, but the term is hardly a new one. The word itself has been around since the 17th century. Technology is more than smartphones, self-driving cars, and internet hacking. It is the application of scientific knowledge for practical purposes. The innovations we take for granted today would not exist if humans hadn't built upon the knowledge gained by scientific experimentation, trial and error muddling, and good old-fashioned tinkering. From First Nation and Indigenous peoples refining canoe designs, to Leonardo da Vinci fiddling in his workshop, to that vinegar and baking soda volcano you made for your school science fair, the urge to create and to innovate has always been there. Makerspaces are very much like workshops. In essence, they're a place for the kind of experimentation, of tinkering that leads to knowledge and hence to creativity and invention, whether that means 3D printing or making a new kind of eco-friendly paperclip from a cereal box. Makerspaces are about providing tools and materials to encourage a maker mindset focused on creativity. So, why is creativity so important? These spaces encourage students to develop a growth mindset through hands-on project-based learning. The Makerspace is as much about the process as it is about the outcome. The modern maker movement dates from the launch of Make magazine in 2005 by Dale Dougherty, co-founder of O'Reilly Media. 1 year later, he held the first Maker Fair in San Mateo, California. Since then, the movement has quickly spread worldwide to include fabrication laboratories, or fab labs, mobile makerspaces, and an increasing number of initiatives to bring makerspaces into schools. Schools in the Louis Riel School Division that have already implemented makerspaces include École Jules-Riel, École Guyot, Collège Jeanne Sauvé, and H.S. Paul School. École Sage Creek School was even designed and built to include a dedicated makerspace area. The maker movement is here and it is growing. The term may be new, but the principles behind the maker movement have been with us for some time. Those of us who are of a certain age made rockets and silkscreen t-shirts in shop classes. We spent our evenings preparing cardboard presentation boards for science fairs. We took apart motors in our spare time, or we altered clothing to make it more fashionable. Humans have always designed, innovated, and created. Makerspaces honor these traditions while integrating 21st century technology. Making is just a new term for a timeless concept. What should our makerspace look like? It'll look however we, meaning students and educators, decide it should look. It could be in a dedicated space or room. It's a section of the library in this example. Or it could be in a corner of your classroom. Remember, our division surplus furniture department is your friend. Or it could even be housed in a mobile cart. Did anyone else notice the sewing machines? Aside from the 3D printer, there's nothing very exotic in this list that isn't already in our school's inventory. Also, remember that a makerspace can include computers, but it doesn't have to. The goal of a makerspace is to get students creating, designing, refining, and learning with the tools and the resources they have at hand. First, we need to go hunting through our classroom cupboards and closets. After that, students and staff members' families are a great source of materials. Some family members may work in industries that produce waste products, such as cardboard, packaging, wire, etc., that could be integrated in our makerspace. Donation drives could be held a couple of times a year, say September and January. Neighboring businesses could also be an excellent asset, as we could take packaging waste off their hands or even broken or defective stock to disassemble. Consumables such as cardboard are particularly popular in makerspaces, so having a variety of sources will be necessary to keeping the space stocked. Disassembling already broken toys and gadgets is a great way of introducing the otherwise hidden aspects of engineering to students. An emphasis on recycling pieces we don't need will be essential. In fact, disassembling so that materials can be properly recycled would be the rule. Items with moving parts, lights, and switches are best. Some devices cannot be accepted due to safety concerns, and we would communicate this to our donors. As mentioned previously, we have a number of options. We could have a permanent Makerspace cabinet in the library. Maybe we could have one or more Makerspace carts spread throughout the school. Or perhaps we could create Makerspace areas in as many classrooms as possible based on demands from teachers and students. Large resources, such as cardboard sheets, special or valuable parts, and stocks of consumables would be kept in our art closet. Our Makerspace should feature the following hand tools and supplies. As you can see, it's possible to buy new tools, if necessary, for a reasonable price. Other items we could consider adding if a need were identified would include drills, saws, and sewing machines. We'll also need furniture to house the resources and tools for our Makerspace. The first step will be to check the school for unused furniture. The next step will be to check our divisional surplus furniture website. The site often features unused desks, filing cabinets, and even the occasional bookcase. If we can't get used furniture, we may have to purchase or build carts. Educational supply carts are crazy expensive and not an option in our case. IKEA stocks cabinets and carts that meet divisional fire codes that could be easily hacked to suit our needs. While some items can be purchased in bulk and at a discount through the school's procurement system, the money still needs to come from somewhere. The parent committee used to offer $100 to every teacher for school supplies. The fund still exists and is applied at the discretion of the committee. These funds would add up to approximately $2,500 per year. Even half that amount would go a long way toward covering ongoing costs associated with the Makerspace project. I'm in contact with the division regarding the possibility of procuring a startup grant for our Makerspace as well. Fundraising directly from our student families would be an option of last resort. We risk competing with our parent committee for the same funds. There's also the danger of alienating our parents with too many requests. I think donating materials is already a lot to ask of them. Les AFM offers up to $500 per year for schools willing to advertise the AFM support, providing another avenue of funding. While we want the very best tools for our students, it's important to remember that innovation is at the heart of a Makerspace. Constraints, whether they be in the form of intellectual challenges or in the form of limited resources, can foster innovation and creativity. Just look at the toys children in Malawi create with scrap materials such as elastic bands, wire, and cardboard. And who can forget Kane Monroy, the little boy who made a fully functioning arcade out of scrap, cardboard, and tape? If we choose to incorporate Makerspaces into our classrooms, accessibility won't be an issue. If we go with a permanent Makerspace in the library or a series of mobile carts, we'll simply need to book them through our existing laptop reservation system. If enough teachers sign up to supervise, we could also offer free-range Makerspace sessions during the lunch hour. Students participating in these sessions are issued challenges, or they're just allowed to tinker aimlessly. Before and after school sessions aren't possible due to the daycare, but our students are keenly interested in lunch hour clubs, particularly during our cold winters. Students develop the following fundamental skills through Makerspaces. These are all extremely valuable skills, not just in the marketplace, but for life in general. But Makerspaces promise even more for our students. Makerspaces are student-led and student-centered learning spaces. Teachers may issue challenges or tell students what outcomes they would like to see, but it's up to students to decide how they meet those challenges and with whose help. This situation is very empowering for students. The student who has built spaghetti towers in a Makerspace has learned through trial and error which configurations are more stable than others. They can draw on that skill set in later lessons and make links with curricular material in the classroom. Not all of our students have the opportunity to explore, to craft, and to tinker at home. Makerspaces have a broad appeal that reaches across ages, skill levels, cultural backgrounds, and gender to help level the playing field within a diverse student population such as ours. Makerspaces allow students who may not have otherwise considered applying themselves in science, technology, engineering, arts, or mathematics to realize their potential in these domains. How many of our students struggle in science or in math because they're not so good at reading texts or writing assignments or even just sitting through lessons? A Makerspace used correctly can re-engage these students with the lessons and give them a sense of accomplishment that may otherwise elude them in a more traditional classroom. Makerspaces are the ultimate application of constructivist learning principles. I mean, are you more likely to remember that which you've read or that which you've lived? Piaget, Vygotsky, and Dewey would almost certainly approve of the maker movement. One obvious benefit of a Makerspace is having access to a wider range of tools and materials than an individual teacher might be able to acquire on their own. Having a ready-made cart also results in less prep work when planning a class project and more time to interact and collaborate with students. Every science module requires students to design, prototype, refine, and finalize a product. Our Makerspace will make it easy for students to explore the materials and develop their designs. Experimenting in the Makerspace beforehand also gives students a leg up, as they are already familiar with the possibilities and the limitations of the available resources. You may even want to begin a unit by using our Makerspace. Give your students a general direction, say, let's explore sound. Let them tinker, and then connect the vocabulary to the lessons they learned through hands-on exploration. Ask them what they've learned in their last Makerspace session. Have the students teach you. Take the next few minutes to mark down at least one theme you could explore in a Makerspace, and maybe the materials you would need to build these projects. Remember, they don't have to be science themes. Imagine a cardboard Greek temple in grade 3, or how about exploring fractions using Legos? Let's brainstorm some ideas together. How do you evaluate a Makerspace project? Well, the same way you would any project. The Makerspace method allows for more options than a typical study and drill approach would. Hold a maker fair. Unlike science fairs, they're about sharing creations without any of the competitive aspects. École Varenne could hold a maker fair to coincide with parent-teacher conferences so that the students can show off their work to a wider and very appreciative audience. Steve Wheeler calls experiential learning a more balanced approach to education where teachers, students, and content are given equal importance in the learning equation. Collaboration and mentoring are a big part of the maker movement. Students have been observed collaborating, creating tutorials, and being recognized as experts in certain domains by their peers. This is an incredibly validating experience for students. Teachers are encouraged to interact with students, offering assistance when asked to do so, and interfering only when safety is at stake. Otherwise, teachers act as collaborators and mentors in the Makerspace creative process. It's neither fair nor advisable to have only one person in charge of the Makerspace. First, we must gather interested students and teachers to form a Maker Steering Committee. The committee should be representative of the groups that make up our student population. A consultation process is essential to the success of a Makerspace. It might be a really great space, but if it's not what the kids need and want, then it's just not going to work as well, says Diana Rendina. The Maker Handbook includes ready-made surveys to ease this process. What are the Makerspace ground rules going to be? Well, that's up to us, students and teachers. The steering committee will need to create a Maker Manifesto for display at the Makerspace. Here are some common elements from other manifestos. Students and teachers should also collaborate on establishing some Makerspace ground rules. These may be a part of the manifesto, or not. Another important task for the steering committee is identifying expertise within the school. Who can sew? Who understands circuits? Who likes woodworking? Who knows how to code? Teachers with particular expertise can offer their services either for training students or for sharing their knowledge with their colleagues. I invite you to consider what knowledge you could bring to our Makerspace. I've already mentioned the Maker Steering Committee and their responsibilities. I've also discussed funding our project. Another important element will be publicizing our Makerspace and drumming up enthusiasm and support for the project within the École Varenne community. If we get all our ducks in a row, I can envision us implementing our first Makerspace in less than 2 months, but I'll need your help to do it. A Makerspace aligns with teaching best practices, it benefits our students, and it even makes our jobs easier. What's more, the Makerspace movement continues an ages-old tradition of design and innovation in schools. By encouraging exploration and by stimulating creativity, we are continuing that tradition even as we prepare our students for the modern world. It's a risk worth taking, don't you think?